Om Namah Pranavartaya Shuddha Jnanaika Murtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Arunagiri Mupetam Satchidananda Murtim Ramanayiti Prithivyam Vishrutam Jnana Suryam Gahana Hridaya Vidyam Nilaya Bodhayantam Satatamaham Ameyam Sadgurum Samsmarami. My pranams. Today will be the session where the last 4 verses of Devi Kalottaram will be taken up. We are planning to have another session where we can have an overview, a summary of the entire text. That can be in the next week. So this week we will finish these 4 verses, last 4 verses. We are in the 82nd verse. Pancha bhutatmako dehaha Shivas tatraiva tishtati Shivadi avaniparyantam lokoyam shankaratmakaha. Bhagavan's translation, Ahamdan aimbhuta akaram angeye eka shivan tanum inidu amarvan bhagam yeladu yengum uru shivam mun ittarai iram ulaham shankarantan uruvam tan. It's a very profound verse. The meaning is, the body is actually constituted of the 5 elements. Pancha bhutatmako dehaha. These elements we know: earth, water, fire, air, and space. So this is whatever is made. The deham, this body is made of these 5 elements. Just as this entire world is also made of these 5 elements. And Ishvara goes on to say that Shivaha tatraiva tishtati. Shiva is established very nicely in this Bhagavan's word. Inidu amarvan, he adds this word inidu, nicely seated. Shiva is nicely seated in this body. Bhagam yiladu, says Bhagavan, without any kind of a division. It is an unfragmented presence of Ishvara in this body. Though it may seem that there are many souls around, many jivas around, but there is absolutely no fragmentation. There is no more consciousness present in one body and less consciousness present in another body. There is only one consciousness everywhere. Bhagavan makes this clear in one of his talks. Eka Shivan, this one Shiva, Tanum inidu amarvan, he is seated in this deham very nicely. And Ishvara says, Shivadi, from the highest principle called as Shivam, Havani Paryantam, down to a grain of sand, Lokoyam Shankaratmakaha, this world that you see is nothing but the form of Shankara Shiva. God is a form of God. This world is to be seen as a form of God, not as an individual thing, something to be liked, something to be disliked, and so on. It is just Shankaratmakaha, says Ishvara. Bhagavan says in one place, the import of this verse in a different word, in different words, Bhagavan says, there is no world apart from the body. Without the body, do we see a world at all? Only when there is a sensation of the body, there is sensation of this world also. So there is no world apart from the body, and there is no body apart from mind. Without the mind, there is no body, there is no world. And the mind, there is no mind without awareness. The mind has to be illumined by the awareness for it to really perceive things outside, including the body and the world. So finally, awareness is not different from beingness. That Sat and Chit, they are one and the same. So this entire universe is just Sat and Chit, Sat Chit, nothing other than that. So the same thing is said in different words by Ishvara here. Almost all the scriptures have talked about this in their own way. So let's have a look at what each one of these texts have said. Upanishad says, Ishavasya Upanishad says, Ishavasya midagum sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Ishvara pervades this jagat without leaving any atom. Every atom is pervaded by Ishvara. Ishavasya midagam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Every single atom of this jagat is pervaded by Ishvara. And Purusha Suktam says, Purusha yevedagam sarvam yadbhutam yaccha bhavyam. It says this. Purusha yevedagam sarvam. All this is only Purusha. Whatever is created in the past and whatever is going to be created in future, yadbhutam yaccha bhavyam. Whatever is going to be created in future is also Purusha. Nothing other than Purusha. And it goes on to say in some other place, Purusha Suktam says, Ajayamano bahudha vijayate. The one that has got no birth at all, that has created and then it has become so many. Bahudha vijayate. What you see, all this variety is just one, that principle. That's what it says. And many of the Shaiva Agamas, Shaiva basic canonical works of Shaivism. One of the most famous one is Tirumandiram. It has a beautiful verse about this, the same concept. In Tirumular says, I will read out the Tamil verse and then give the meaning. Adiyumai, Aranai, Udalul Nindru, Vediyumai, Virindu Arndirundan, Aruchodiyumai, Surungadador Tanmayula, Nidiyumai, Nittamahi Nindrane. Adiyumai, he is the beginningless beginning. Aranai is the one who protects everything, sustains everything. He, Udalul Nindra Vediyumai, he resides in this body and as the innermost self also. Vediyumai, one who knows everything, the knower. He resides in this body as the knower of the body and the knower of the world. Vediyumai, Virindu Arndirundan is the whole expanse. Aruchodiyumai, he is the great flame of grace. Grace is the one that is really sustaining this entire universe. Aruchodiyumai, Surungadador Tanmayula Nidiyumai, one that does not decay at all. Surungadador Tanmayula Nidiyumai, he is the ordainer. He maintains the order of this universe. Nidiyumai, Nittamahi Nindrane, he is the eternal principle. Says Tirumular in Tirumandiram. So this kind of mentioning that he alone has become the whole thing. He is the Karanam, he is also the Karyam. He is the cause and he is also the effect. It's known as Nimitta Karanam and Upadhana Karanam. Upadhana Karanam is the material cause and Nimitta Karanam is the instrumental cause. He is both the instrumental cause of this universe and also the material cause of the universe. He himself, he has made the whole thing out of himself. That's what it says. So there is another great verse by Manikya Vachakar. It's a very moving verse. Vanahi, he became the sky. No, even the usage of the word became is not very correct, but for lack of any other thing, we say this. Vanahi, Mannahi, he is the earth. Valiyahi is the air. Oliyahi has the light. Unmayumai, he is the truth. Inmayumai, he is also the falsehood. In the sense, the false ego is also himself. Ego is not different from him. And ego is a false one. So that's why he says, Unmayumai, Inmayumai, Konahi. He is the emperor of this universe. Naan yenadu endru avaravarai koottaattuvaanahi. He animates us. All the jivas are animated by him. And each one of them says, this is me, this is mine. You know, he makes them dance around in this manner. Like in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudani mayaya. He is the one who is putting us in a that chakram, yantram, the moving wheel, and then he moves us around. So the same thing that Manikavachakara says, Aan yanadu endru avaravarai koottaattuvanagi. He makes us dance around. En solli vartuhane, what can I, how can I praise you? What words do I have to praise you? Says Manikavachakara. So all these things are very beautiful methods of describing that there is only Ishvara all around, and we should have that kind of a jnana chakshu, the eye of wisdom to see the whole thing around us as just Ishvara and not other than him. Whereas in our sight, we are a separate being, and there are so many billions of separate beings, and I have these kind of interactions. I have likes and dislikes and so on. And that's how this entire samsaram starts, and the suffering also starts in this manner. So Shivadi Avani Paryantam, starting from the highest principle to, as I said, a grain of sand, everything, Avani Paryantam, this up to this earth, up to this sand, everything is only himself. Lokoyam Shankaratmakaha, only Shankara's form. This whole universe is only of the form of Shankara, says this verse. The 82nd verse, the next two verses are about the glory of the jnanis. A very delightful ending to this text. The glory of the jnanis are described by Ishvara, where he says the jnanis are even superior to Ishvara himself. Idrisham jnaninam drishtva, when you see a jnani of this kind, and he is going to describe that. Pujayanti cha ye naraha, he is to be worshipped, he says. When you see a jnani, all the people should worship him. Gandham, pushpam, palam, dhupam, snanam, vastram cha bhojanam. Earlier verses he says there is no need to worship any god, but here he says do the full worship of a jnani. He gives a complete list of how you should worship a jnani. Gandham, the fragrant, chandanam, the sandalwood, pushpam, flowers, palam, fruits, dhupam, all the, the agarbatti and other things, snanam, the incense sticks, snanam. You should bathe him and you should give him fresh vastras and give him bhojanam. All these things you should do. Nivedayanti ye kechit vang manah kaya karma bihi. The trikaranam, all the three instruments. We have three instruments. One is our speech. The other instrument that we have is the mind. And the third instrument that we have is the body. So, mano, vak, kayam, we say. Body, mind, and the speech. With all these three karanams, one should worship a jnani, says Ishvara. There are beautiful verses about Bhagavan himself in Ramana Padamalai. Ramana Padamalai, Muruganar, he says that Vidudalai Yutru, one who is liberated, Vilang, the shining Shiva Jnanik, the Shiva Jnani who shines after liberation. Jnanikku idudal, whatever you give to a jnani is the same as Shivanukku idudal yanum padam. He says padam is Bhagavan. So he refers to Bhagavan as padam in his Padamalai verses. He says, any offering to a Shiva Jnani who shines having attained liberation is an offering to Shiva. There is no difference. And there is a talk in which Bhagavan talks about a jnani state. He says the gods and the sages, they experience the infinite continuously and eternally without their vision being obscured at any moment. Their minds are surmised by the spectators to function, but in fact they do not. Such surmise is due to the sense of individuality in those who draw inferences. There is no mental function in the absence of individuality. So he says there is no difference at all. It is continuously the sages experience that infinite being. And he goes on to say, God and the jnani are identical. To know oneself as pure consciousness distinct from the body is to know God. God consciousness is not different from one's real nature, which is pure consciousness. So knowing God is only being the self. Isha darshanam atma rupa. Atma rupa, he says in Upadesha Saram. Isha darshanam swatma rupataha. Knowing God is only being the self. The Supreme Spirit, the Parabrahman, and the Jnani who has the firm experience of the self are identical because of the experience of Upadhi Rahita Sthiti. That is, without any Upadhis, without any limitations. They don't have any limitations whatsoever. The Jnani does not consider himself to be limited in any manner. So in this, they are identical. The self, the Jnani, the self, and God, they are one and the same, says Bhagavan in one of the talks. There is another verse in Ramana Padamalai extolling the virtue of a Jnani, where Muruganar says, honor and cherish the Jnani who lives in a walking temple more than a God who lives in a big temple surrounded by fluttering flags. Padamada Koyil Paramanilum, better than the Paramatman who resides in a God who resides in a temple, which is just a structure, a stone structure. Padamada Koyil Paramanilum Penai, Nadamada Koyil Var Jnaniyai in Padam. And this Jnani is actually residing in a walking temple. His body is a walking temple, he says. Nadamada Koyil Var Jnani. Beautiful description of a Jnani. He says, worship this Jnani who moves about, who is in a temple called as the body. So his body is more supreme, is better than worshipping a stone god in a temple. Worship this Jnani is the meaning of this. And in some other place, Bhagavan himself says, the sage, to understand the sage is so difficult. The sage helps the world merely by being the real self. Just by being himself, he serves the world, and nobody will know this. The best way for one to serve the world is to win the egoless state. This is a statement in Mahayoga. Lakshman Sharma makes this statement. And another place, the Jnani lives in the experience of Brahman, and the effect of this experience spreads all around the world. A radio transmission is done from one point, but its effect can be felt all over the world. Those who would like to benefit from it can do so. Similarly, the self-realization of the Jnani spreads everywhere, and whosoever wants can tune into it. And this is the magic of Bhagavan all over the world. Just by remembering him, just by reading about him, understanding his philosophy, one gets connected to him. And this goes on. This is an everlasting kind of a transmission that goes on. The fact that his body is absent today does not matter at all. He is a Jivan Mukta, never dies. So his presence is felt all over the world, and this is the best service to the world, says Bhagavan. So, and the same thing is mentioned in the Mundaka Upanishad also. Upanishad themselves, they talk about this. There is a Upanishad Vakyam where it says, Tasmat, because of this, Atmajnam, the one who has known the self, he archayet. You have to do vandanam to him, archana to him. He archayet bhuti kamaha. For fulfilling your desires, you have to really worship a Jnani, says Mundaka Upanishad. The other lines of this verse are Yam Yam Lokam Manasa Sambibhati Vishuddha Sattvaha Kamayate Yamscha Kaman Tam Tam Lokam Jayate Tamscha Kamam Tasmat Atmajnam Hi Archayet Bhuti Kamaha. The meaning is, the Jnani with a pure mind can obtain whatever worlds or whatever things he wishes for. But a Jnani does not want anything for himself. But one who worships a Jnani, anyone wishing for his own welfare, will worship such a jnani to get all the things that he wants. Bhuti kamaha. But then it goes on to say, but it is better not to have any desires at all while worshipping a jnani. Because if you worship a jnani without any desires, what happens to you is you yourself will cross the samsara. You yourself will become a mukta purusha. So he says the next verse, sa vedaitat paramam brahma dhama yatra vishvam nihitam bhati shubram upasate purusham. Purusham is a jnani here. Upasate purusham ye hi akamaha, without any desire. If somebody is doing upasana to a jnani, upasate purusham ye hi akamaha, te shukrametat ativartanti dhiraha. They cross this ocean of samsara, they themselves become a liberated soul. The person who knows his self knows also Brahman, who is the support to this world. No, Brahma Dhama, that is the word that is mentioned. Sa Veda etat paramam Brahma Dhama, one who knows Brahman, yatra vishvam nihitam bhati shubram, where the entire world shines because of his consciousness. One who worships such a jnani, he gets, without any desire in his mind, if he worships a jnani, he becomes a liberated person himself, says Mundakopanishad. So, all this great verse is the same thing that is reflected in all our shastras and our scriptures about the greatness of a jnani and how one should not, give up this opportunity of worshipping a jnani, because it is going to give you worldly desires, going to fulfill the worldly desires, as well as is going to give you that liberation that all of us long for. So this is what is Bhagavan's translation is even more beautiful. He says, "If Arinyanai Kandu," knowing this particular jnani, Isai Karana Mundralum is that three Karanam, Manovak Kayam, Sevya Gandham, Kani, Pu, Thim Puhayum, Divyamai, Niradal, Adai, Oon. All these things he says, and he adds a phrase which is not mentioned in the original, which is Bhagavan's, beautiful method of expanding on the meaning. Nenjuruhum anbal. He says the heart that is melting with love. If you are able to do puja to a jnani, all other things may not be really required or very important, but this melting heart, love, the heart that melts with love, if you are able to do puja to a jnani, Nenjuruhum anbal, Ind Aradithiduvar, who worships him. The verse continues in the next this thing, and he says, the next verse says, Tataiva Devi Muchyante. Then and there, people who worship him like this, they get liberated. Mukti Marga Abhikankshinaha Stuti Ninda Karastasya Stuti Ninda Karastasya Punyam Papam Avapnushu. People who praise him, they earn the merit, Punyam, and people who blame him for some reason, not knowing him fully, they inherit Papam. So worship him with all your mind, worship him is the message that is given here. The whole earth is purified when a jnani walks on the earth. His very presence purifies everything around him. And so there is a very interesting verse in Ramana Sannidhimurai that Muruganar has composed about how the earth is doing a lot of tapas for a jnani. And Bhagavan has fulfilled that particular tapas of Mother Earth. I will just read out that incident, and then I will read out the verse also in the thing. This is in the words of Kanakammal. In one of Muruganar's poems called Tiruchazal, a lady asks her friend, if not to make up for the deficits of previous lives, why has this Venkatraman come down to earth now? She says, he's just teasing the other girl who is in great love with Bhagavan. She knows that she wants to tease her. So she is asking her, he must have really not completed his tapas in his previous life. That's why he has come, taken another birth now. And you see, he walks on the earth without wearing any footwear. And people only who do the bratam, no, they take a vow that I will not wear any chappals, I will walk barefoot and other things. So he is trying to continue his tapas. He has not finished any tapas. Is it not? She is asking him, asking the other girl. Though it may appear as though Bhagavan, why should he be walking about on this earth now? Is the question. To which her friend replies, the girl who is in great, love of Bhagavan, she says, though it may appear as though Venkatan, this Bhagavan Ramana, is leading a mortal's life, the truth of the matter is that he is walking around on this earth barefooted only to satisfy the earth goddess's long cherished desire to feel the touch of God's feet. She has been doing tapas. Mother Earth is doing tapas so that she can be purified by the touch of a jnani's feet. So she has been doing tapas. So don't be under the impression that he is doing tapas for himself. Actually, he is fulfilling the tapas of Mother Earth. Though God has come down to the earth in various incarnations, in each of these incarnations, he has had various vehicles, vahanas, and his feet seldom touch the ground directly. All the gods, they come, but then they come in their vahana, a peacock or a bull or a lion or whatever it is, their feet do not touch the earth. So earth goddess felt deprived of the privilege of touching the divine feet and was longing for a chance to do so. In response to her desire, God came into the world in the form of Shri Ramana and walked barefoot over every inch of Arunachala hill just to please the goddess of earth. All of us know that Bhagavan never wore any footwear, but Muruganar alone could have come up with such a beautiful, moving explanation for Bhagavan's actions. Muruganar's words, I will read out this beautiful verse. Kurai payindra sai tavattukku kurai mudippa nallal tarai payindru Vengadavan Tan Charipadu Ennedi. Charipadu is walking. So the question from one girl to the other one is Kurai Payindra Sai Tavattukku. There must have been some shortcoming in his penance in his previous life. Kurai Mudippa Nallar, in order to complete that tapas. Now he is now walking barefoot on this earth. Tarai Payindru Vengadavan Tan Charipadu Ennedi. So the answer, this girl is answering, Tarai Payindru Vengadavan Tan Charital Pal Yugamai Tarai Payindra Tavapayanai Tandidakkan Sadalo. Tarai Payindru, he is walking barefoot. This Venkadavan, this Venkatraman, is walking barefoot on this earth because Pal Yugamai, for several eons, Tarai Payindra Tavapayan, Mother Earth is doing great penance for eons and eons just to feel the touch of a great jnani or a great god. Tandidakkan Sadalo. So in order to fulfill her tapas, he came down and walked barefoot on this earth. So beautiful. So his very presence, his touch purifies everything, including Mother Earth. Bhagavan himself has talked about a jnanis. He has quoted, I believe, to Devaraja Mudaliyar, one of his talks with Devaraja Mudaliyar. This, you can find this conversation in Recollections of Bhagavan, written by My Recollections of Bhagavan by Devaraja Mudaliyar. He says in one place, Bhagavan, I believe, quoted 2 verses to him. One is from Brahma Gita. Brahma Gita is Brahma's Gita. Masila Parama Jnaniya Munik Maheshanam Oppalan. In front of a jnani, if you want to compare a jnani to a Maheshwara, Maheshwara will not match a jnani. Maheshanam Oppalan, he cannot match him. Madikil Ashila Variyum Oppalan Hari. Vari is Hari. Hariyum Oppalan. Even Vishnu cannot match him. Is not a match for him. Nanum Oppalan. Brahma says, even I cannot match a Jnani. I am also not. Ever Oppare. Who can match him? Who can be equal to him? Bhagavan has quoted this from Brahma Gita. And he goes on to quote from another old classic, Kurun Thirattu. Devaraja Mudaliyar has recorded this also. Nyalamundavan is Vishnu, one who swallowed the earth. Nyalamundavan, Talaimisai Sumappan, he will bear the Jnani's feet on his head, I believe. Talaimisai Sumappan, meaning Jnani Venduvadellam, Alamundavan, Avan Pinne Tiriguvan. Alamundavan is Shiva. The Halakala Visham, poison, was swallowed by Lord Shiva. So he says, Alam Mundavan, the one who ate the poison, swallowed the poison, Avan Pine Tiruguvan, he will go after him. To just fulfill all the desires of a Jnani, Shiva goes after him. Avan Adittugal Katkandro, Avan Adittuhal Katkandro, Avan Adittuhal is the dust of his feet. Sheela Mannarum, Matrula Devarum, Disai Panin Detuvar, all the devas and others, they bear the dust of a Jnani's, feet on their head. Kal Irandayum, Talaimisai Vayana, Kalaruvan, Kamalaton. Brahma says, please put your feet on my head. This is what Brahma requests a Jnani. So beautiful quotations that Bhagavan himself picked up and then told to Devaraja Mudaliyar. I will just read out the meaning once again. He who serves a Jnani is so great that I permanently bear on my head his feet. None can equal the spotless and supreme Jnani, neither Shiva, Vishnu nor I, Brahma. Who else then can equal him? And then this Kurun Thirattu, this particular verse is, Vishnu will carry on his head all that a real Jnani wants. Shiva will follow him everywhere. While virtuous kings and all the devas do obeisance to the dust of such Jnani's feet, Brahma will beg that those feet may be pleased, please be placed on his head. So this is what it is. Even Adi Shankara in one place has talked about a Jnani's glory. I will read that also. Adi Shankara, we all know about Manisha Panchakam in Kashi. Adi Shankara meets with this Chandala. Actually, Lord Shiva himself in the form of Chandala who confronts him when Adi Shankara asks him to move away so that he can pass in that narrow lane. He asks him, whom are you asking? Are you asking this body which is made of food, which is no different from the body that is made of food in your case? Are you asking my body to move away from your body? Or are you asking the consciousness within to move away from your consciousness? Because consciousness is a very ridiculous thing, because consciousness is only one. You know that. Dvijavara, you know that. Learned Brahmin, you know that consciousness is only one. So which one are you asking to move? He asked that question. So immediately Adi Shankara realizes that the one who is before him is his guru. So he says that someone who knows this kind of a truth, even if he is a Chandala, he is my guru. He says, Chandalostu satu dvijostu guru rityesha manisha mama. Manisha means this is my conviction. Manisha mama, this is my conviction that whoever it is that who can understand this truth, he is my guru. And all the verses are like that. Etat manisha mama, he says. Yesha manisha mama, he says. And the last verse, he talks about a great Jnani and how he is to be worshipped by everybody. He says, Yat saukyam bhuti dile, yat saukyam bhuti leshata ime chakradayo nirvrita. Leshata means a drop in the great ocean of bliss in which the Jnani is immersed all the time. From that ocean, a drop of that ocean will satisfy all the devas, Indra and others. They will become satisfied by just a drop of that ocean of bliss. So you can imagine the bliss the jnani is enjoying all the time. Lesata yume shakradayo nirvrita yachite nitaram prashanta kalane labdhva munir nirvritaha. One, this Muni who is immersed in that consciousness all the time with a calm mind, prashanta kalane labdhva munir nirvritaha. Yasmin nitya sukambudhau galitadhi brahmaivacha brahmaiva na brahmavit. He says one who knows Brahman is Brahma himself. You don't call him as a Brahmavit, he is Brahma himself, he is Brahman himself. So a person who is constantly immersed in that chiti, in that chit, in that consciousness, he is Brahman himself. Then final sentence is Yaha Kaschit, whoever he is, Sa Surendra Vandita Pado. He is to be worshipped by even Indra, Surendra. His feet are to be worshipped by Surendra. Nunam Manisha Mama. I am convinced about this, says Adi Shankara. Indra has to bow down before a jnani and worship his feet, because the bliss of a jnani cannot be even imagined by anybody. Even a small drop of that bliss will satisfy the entire world. All the devas will be pleased by just a drop of that bliss. So somebody who is enjoying that Bhagavan, in a very similar words, he says, Apara Satchit Sukhavari Rashi Yasyormi Matram Bhuvanam Samastam. Even a small wave in that great ocean is equivalent to this entire universe, he says, in that Mangala Slokam before the Ashtotra. So this is the glory of the jnanis, that Ishvara is ending the entire text with the glory of this. And he says here, worship him and you will get merits. And on the other hand, for some stupid reason, if you blame him, you are going to only inherit all the papas. So that is the glory of the jnanis. And the last verse, the 85th verse, Yat jnanacharanam prishtam tatsarvam katitam maya kalajnanam vararohe. He is addressing Devi Parvati as Vararohe, one with a beautiful countenance, queen amongst the ladies. He says, Kalajnanam vararohe kimanyat shrota vichasi. Do you want to listen to anything more? Do you want to know anything more? I have given you the entire condensed version of what is jnanam and what is the method to reach the jnanam. Kala yat jnana acharanam prishtam. You asked about jnanam and also the acharanam for the jnanam. I have given you all the things. Kala jnanam vararohe kim anyat shrotamichasi. Do you want to hear something more? Arivudan acharam yavai yachikkapattadu. Arivikkapattadu ennal. I have told you everything that you wanted to know. And the neriyavum, including the acharanam. Kalajnanam dan karuttil. With this kalajnanam in mind, all these instructions have been given by me. Vere vinavatpal adi yedo made pahar. He says, if there is anything more, please tell me what it is. This same Vararohe is the way Ishvara starts the Upadesham. If you go to the very beginning of Devi Kalottaram, Ishvara says, when Devi says, please, for the sake of everybody, please tell us, Sarvesham api muktyartam, for the liberation of everybody. She includes the entire world in her request. Mukti margasya darshanam. In order to know this Mukti margam, Devesha, Ishvara, Jnana macharam kripaya katayasvame. Please, your grace, please tell us all these things, she says. And Ishvara says, Jnanacharau vararohe katayami tavadhunan. Immediately will tell you, because people who come and ask for this jnanam are very few, very rare. So moment you ask this, I have to tell you immediately. Tava adhuna, immediately will tell you this. Privishanti yato moksham. They enter into that moksha lokam. Jnanino dvasta kalmisham. All the jnanis who are able to know this and then practice this and then get into the moksha margam, I will tell you all those things, he says, and the entire jnana, jnanachara, vicharam. proceeds from this. So this is the way the entire text ends. And in the next session, I will try to give a overview, a summary. I won't be able to cover all the verses, but most important takeaways from this particular text, I will try to cover in the next session. So with this, thank you very much.